Hi, my name is Miss Emma Katz, and I am the 10th grade Chumash teacher and the 11th grade Navi teacher at Chumash High School. I'm so sorry I was not able to be at parent night. I look forward to meeting everyone, and I just wanted to give you a small taste of what my class will be like. The lesson we'll be learning today is actually the first lesson that I did in both of my 10th grade Chumash classes, and it's an introduction to Sefer Bamidbar, which is the Sefer that we'll be exploring in the class this year. My goal for the girls is that they should have an appreciation of the Sefer as a whole, of the stories within the Sefer, but should also see how every story within the Sefer is directly applicable to their lives. So to start off this lesson, attached in the email is a link to a video. It's a news broadcast about basic training in the Army. I would like everyone to pause the video now and watch that clip. Okay. Once you've watched this clip, I want you to think, what are some things that the soldiers said they gained from being in basic training? Some suggestions that I thought of and that the students suggested were that they were eased into things, that they learned what the Army was going to be like, and they were able to ease in slowly. For example, with the gas, it said like they would go back a little every day so it wasn't shocking and so that they were able to tolerate it. Also, something that was suggested was that it was harder than the Army was going to be, because once you're used to something harder, you can definitely handle something that would be easier. Other things, it teaches them trust, it teaches them a sense of camaraderie, a sense of togetherness. I would say achdos. I don't think they know that term in the Army, but it fosters a sense of togetherness. So the students all had to think of these ideas, and then we're going to turn to the Ramban on his introduction to Sefer Bamidbar and see how this can connect to our Sefer. So if everyone can look at the attached worksheet, we're going to read through the Ramban together. In an effort to teach the students skills, I want to have them learn how to learn sources on their own, because there's no way to learn Tanakh without being able to learn basic Rishonim, and understand the text in a deeper, more meaningful way. I'm going to return to the Ramban. As the students went through the Ramban, they were told to punctuate the Ramban, because the first step to understanding what any Pirush is talking about is being able to properly understand the flow of the Pirush. So we're going to read through the Ramban together. I'm going to start with the beginning, then we'll skim over a little, and we'll come back and read word for word from 8 lines down. Okay? So the Ramban starts off. Achar shebi'ar Torat hakarbanot b'sefer hashlishi, hitchila talasader b'sefer hazeh mitzvot shenitzavu b'inyan ohel moed. So it says, after all of the karbanot in Sefer Shlishi, which is Sefer Vayikra, it starts here in this Sefer to talk about all the mitzvot of ohel moed. It already talked about Tumad HaMikdash. It continues all. This is where we're going to skim over. All these things are talking about Kedusha and Tumad Tahara, and it's all Lidorot. It's for generations. And it talks about it connects back to what was talked about by Har Sinai, that it talked about Kedusha there and what would happen if you approached Har Sinai. So we're coming off of all of these more like ideal mitzvot, bigger ideas, Tumad Tahara, things that aren't so tangible. They're more in the spiritual realm. So then we're going to come back together on the 8th line. V'hasefer hazeh kulo b'mitzvot shah shenitzavu b'hem ba'amdam b'midbar u'b'nisim hana'asim lahem l'saper kol ma'asei Hashem asher asay imahem lahafli. V'siper ki hachal latit oivehem lifneihem l'charev v'tziva ich tichalek ha'aretz lahem v'im b'sefer hazeh mitzvot nohagot l'dorot dil tiktzat mitzvot binyan inyanei hakarbanot shehitchil b'hen hasefer kohanim. So what the Ramban is saying is, we still have some of these mitzvot, but very few. We have very few mitzvot in Sefer Bamidbar. We have more, we have stories, and we have mitzvot that were to them at the time. We don't have mitzvot l'dorot. It's talking more about practical things that happened to them then. The Ramban is focusing and saying there's a shift in the Torah at this point. It goes from the ideal and the big and the grand and the things that will last us forever to Sefer Bamidbar is when everything gets real. It changes and there's a realization of we're going into Eretz Yisrael. We're about to have enemies put before us. We're about to have challenges that we have to deal with. And the appearance of miracles of Hashem isn't going to be as clear. We're not going to so clearly see the Kedusha of the Mishkan. We're not going to have that. We're going to have the enemy's standing before us, and we're going to need to know what to do. We're going to need to know how to act in that moment. So the Raman is saying the Midbar was like our basic training, and especially Sefer Bamidbar was like our basic training for going into Eretz Yisrael. It was taking us from the broad and the big, which had to be our foundation, and it was transforming into the more concrete, the more real. The more we're going into Eretz Yisrael, what do we do then, and how do we be prepared for the situation? So at this point, everyone would stop and write on the few lines below the Ramban the explanation of what you think the Ramban is talking about. Then I would move on and have the girls learn the Chavrusa.
Yeah.
A quick,
I have a key. I'm not trying to be here, but
a quick article by Rabbi Michael Hatin, who summarizes beautifully the ideas in the Ramban. I just wanted to highlight a few lines that are underlined. Receiving a new set of norms and rituals, they offered formal acceptance and perfunctory performance, but remained far from the ideal of being spiritually transformed. He's saying, in Sefer Shemo at Har Sinai, they accepted the mitzvah. They took it all on themselves, but they weren't spiritually ready. They weren't, as much as they had Shloshei Hagbala, they prepared themselves. They weren't really on the level to get it. Remaining at the foot of the mountain for close to a year, they solidified their commitment and slowly adapted to a new way of life. Preparing to break up camp to commence their journey to the Promised Land, they were still bereft of the precious possessions of complete trust in God and recognition of utter dependence on His providence. So Bnei Yisrael were still lacking something. Even once they got the Torah, they stayed at Har Sinai for a year. They definitely grew closer, but they didn't have that complete dependence on Hashem. So he goes on to say that this is where Sefer Bamidbar comes in. It was their journey. It was their time spent in the desert. It was all this together that built up the critical dependence of Hashem. Because going into Eretz Yisrael, when they're going to be faced with all these challenges, they could have thought, oh, look what we're able to do. So they had to establish first this total trust in Hashem in order to then go on to develop themselves. So Rabbi Hatin is taking the Ramban one step further. Not only is it this transition from like the broad and the spiritual to the concrete and everyday life, it's learning how to take the total emunah and building yourself up to a certain level to be able to go in the everyday, still with walking in the way of Hashem. So the message I wanted to give over to you and to the girls through this lesson is that we're seeing how not only does all of Bnei Yisrael have to take on this message, but us personally. We have to remember that going into our lives and as we grow in our lives, specifically in this time of Elul, we have to check and say, do we have that foundation? Do we have the spiritual basis to be able to grow upon it, to enter our everyday life in the way of Hashem? I look forward to learning more together this year and to learn with your girls and to really grow in Torah with them. Bye. Thank you.